And welcome to another episode of Tampa Fishing Outfitters Live Fishing Report.
We made it.
We're here. Myself, Captain Travis in the studio, Captain James, Captain Rick is in the ladies' room.
Yep.
We should, I think I hear him come up the steps. So he's with us here tonight. We got a good show planned. We're gonna talk a little bit of what's going on right now.
I would say for all of us, it's kind of been a change of pace this last week. At least for me. So I want to touch on that. Talk about what we've been doing, which is different for me than the last couple of weeks. And then I think what we really want to focus on, is we definitely got that reminder. What was Saturday of opening day grouper season? If you drove around the bay, you saw some boats in places you weren't seeing boats before. So we definitely want to talk about that and hopefully get everybody dialed in if that's something you're going to go target, whether it's inside the bay or really near shore. We want to talk about that. And it already looks like we got some folks here that are joining us that know about this as well that can help us with that conversation. But yeah, let's start there. Let's talk about kind of it's been 2 weeks since we've seen everybody and got together. So
it has been. Yeah. We had the seminars, tarpon seminar.
We did.
So some folks came out and hung out with us for that.
Dude, how many out of that tarpon seminar, within 2 or 3 days of that, my social media stuff was getting lit up with messages or videos from people that came to that seminar.
Yep.
That went out and stroked their first tarpon, like right after that. I mean, a lot of big thanks, so which is awesome. I mean, there's no better way to feel like you did well.
Gratifying. Yeah, it's gratifying that you helped some people, and a lot of folks came out, and we appreciate it. So we've got, before we go any farther, we've got a series of seminars that we're going to do this year, and that's going to be, we did our little tarpon seminar, and then we're going to do another one in the fall, and then we'll probably do a winter one.
Yep.
So keep your eye out for those. We're going to try to stage them around the transitions, right, the seasons. When we really start making a big shift to doing something different in the fishery, that's when I think those seminars are really key and productive. So that's what we're going to do.
Let's actually stop for a minute, and we want to introduce everybody to Travis, Captain Travis Yaeckel, with Instinct Fishing Company. New to the show,
I didn't even see the
just
messages,
bringing a new face on board, just to kind of keep things fresh and keep things alive,
man.
And bring some young energy.
Yeah, he's the new guy. The new guy. I shaved my beard. I was telling these guys it's probably been 15 years since I've shaved everything. I've kept a goatee or a mustache or even some sideburns, but I let it all ride, man. So I'm real curious to see what my daughter says when I get home, because she doesn't know I shaved it, so she's never seen me without facial.
Better approach that gentle.
Yeah.
Should be interesting, but anyway, yeah. So thanks for noticing. But now I really gotta wear sunscreen.
You better wear sunscreen, because that stuff hasn't seen the light of day in a while.
No, man, it burns.
Yeah,
it hurts pretty bad. But anyway, so yeah, guys, we're gonna have seminars. That's coming up, and then we're going to talk a little bit tonight, or mostly tonight our show is going to be about grouper, right? So before we get into some fishing reports and we kind of talk about what we've been doing, just to kind of give you the lay of the land, we're going to talk about grouper, the limits, the season, some areas to catch them, some tackle to catch them, and then some techniques to use that tackle to catch them. So if you've got any questions about grouper, fire them off in the comments here. We'll try to get to them as we go, or we will get to them. If not, we'll go back and answer your question via a message. But why don't the tarpon slayer over here?
It was a good week.
Why don't you lay it down and tell us what you've been doing and give us a report, brother?
It's really been tarpon focused. This was kind of for me just a week that happened to have a few tarpon outings on the book. So I kind of went into it cold, which was a little nerve-wracking. We did our seminar last week, and I actually hadn't been out tarpon fishing prior to that. It just wasn't in the cards, and fortunately I've been busy with other stuff. I've been running.
Christy, what's up?
Been running the normal gamut of trips that late April and May call for. Red fishing's been good, and hadn't been out there, and it's nice to have a network of you guys and some other folks that I know to kind of give you at least some baseline info. And it was just one of those weeks where everything came together. I'll be honest with you, from within 15 minutes of setting foot in tarpon grounds, we had a fish in the air, and that's a good feeling. And then I think you just get that confidence rolling, and it happens. But one thing I'll say is every fish I caught this week was on dead bait. So I haven't been able to acquire any crabs with any consistency, although I know crabs have been a ticket, especially when that sun gets high. The tide stops moving a little bit, and these fish start moving around, getting into smaller groups. Crabs have definitely been the ticket. I've actually had to change game plans completely and leave the areas I've been fishing and focus on deeper water to get those fish to eat in those scenarios. But yeah, it was a good week. So I spent the week doing 95% of the 5 or 6 days.
That'd be me, Eric. Yeah. That'd be me.
Get a single GPS. There you go. That easy one right there. Yeah, because for me, it's going to take 12 beers and a lot of wings. But
I don't even know how to get my GPS numbers out.
Yeah,
so.
He's out of the equation altogether. Hey, JT, I'm glad you joined, man. I had one of the kids that fishes with you randomly on my boat named William, and he spoke very highly of you, JT, and said he loves fishing with you. And, man, I could see your angling passion and skills have rubbed off on him because he was tearing it up out there. Nice. That was the one day I didn't tarpon fish this last week. I had some kids on the boat, and that was cool.
Good stuff, man.
But yeah, tarpon bite was good. It's been good on every tide. You got to move around a little bit. You've got to understand which tides are producing where. But the consistent theme of the messages I got from the people that were in our tarpon fishing seminar, the one consistent thing because I asked them, I said, "What do you think what?" Because they were like, "Oh, thanks for doing the seminar. I got my first tarpon." Well, do you feel like that helped? Absolutely. Well, what do you think was the biggest piece of advice? Sitting on the sidelines for a minute. That was the response I got from everybody who went out and did well. Is they went and watched what was going on. They went and watched. A lot of them went to the pass, a lot of them went to Egmont. That's where they were getting fish, and they took a minute to observe and said, "All right, these guys are fishing with this type of bait. All right, we've got that. Check. All right, they're either drifting, eye piloting, whatever they're doing. All right, that's what we're going to do." Worked out great.
It's a seamless thing, and I think we both did a pretty good job of expressing the fact that if you don't know what you're doing, don't act like you do.
Yeah.
You roll in and take it slow. Take it slow because you're going to be fishing in a crowd. You're going to be fishing around people that do know what they're doing, and you may not know you're the issue, or you may not know that you're going to make somebody else upset. And so if
limit your own chances.
Limit your own chances inherently, right?
But in tarpon fishing, you'll know that you're the issue pretty quick.
Well, that's what I mean. and that's a bad way to start out tarpon fishing.
Yeah, you'll get your feelings hurt out there. Somebody will tell you.
It's a hunt. Tarpon fishing can be a grind. Tarpon fishing can be fun. But I can tell you one thing. Tarpon fishing will always be intense. It will always be intense, whether it's you're trying to find fish, trying to get fish to eat, you got a fish on, trying to land fish.
Looking at fish that won't eat.
It's an intense fishing,
I call it something else other than intense, but
well,
it can't
I'm
be.
hearing it. I'm with you.
It's just always it's a lot more intense than hey man, you want to come catch some of these snook next to me, or hey man, even on a school redfish, it's just a little more intense. You're working with a big fish, you're working with a big crowd, normally in a pretty small area. So knowing sort of the rules of the road and kind of knowing the ethics around the whole game will help you succeed at being a good tarpon fisherman.
Well, let me say something before I forget, and I don't know which one of our viewers this was, but Saturday I ran a trip.
Rick got that famous bug, didn't you?
Famous bug.
You got that famous bug.
No.
That wasn't the story?
No.
Right. Oh.
I ran a trip, and I was where I've been on a school of it's a school of big redfish. There's like 30 of them, but they're all 30 to 35 inches. And there was a guy that was there before me, and he just motored down the shoreline, throwing the cast net. I mean, he would run and throw, and where these fish are is about a 400 yard.
You weren't trying to catch redfish, was it?
No, but I knew that he had probably really boogered up those fish because they've been pretty easy to pattern. So as I was on trolling motor, I started just idling off the flat there where they were, and there was another boat there that they were really patient coming in, and actually they were headed to where I would have been, and I just kind of come off, and I when I got to where I was in talking distance to them, I just said, hey, y'all looking for that knot of redfish? And the guy said, yes. And I said, well, I think that boat, and I pointed to it, I said, I think that boat may have messed us up. I said, because, and he said, yeah, probably did. But he wasn't there when that boat did that. So I went around and I snook fished for about 45 minutes, and I came back. And I told my people, I said, let's go back and look, and maybe those fish have settled in by now. So as I'm idling back into that spot, I say idling, I'm on trolling motor. I see this boat that I had talked to, and he's steadily throwing chum, and the water's just blowed up behind his boat. Well, I got to about maybe 60 yards, and I just maybe 80, a little bit farther. I just put the brakes on. I said, I'm not going to go in there and
mess him up,
bump these fish. And one of the guys on my boat said, they're not fishing, though. They didn't have a rod out. And I said, well, dang, they sure don't. I said, that's kind of weird. And about that time, this guy looked over, and he goes, Rick. Waved me in. So that's when I went to about 50, 60 yards, and I saw the fish between us. And so I just power poled down.
Yeah.
Tried to make a cast to him. It was a side wind cast, and kind of a tough cast. And the guy says, hey, come on in here and get these. And he had his anchor out, and he started pulling his anchor, and he was leaving. I said, no, man, let's fish them. He says, I think you're right on that boat. He says, these fish are busted up now. He said, they're in like 2 or 3 different little groups. And he says, I'm going to be back tomorrow. He says, I'm looking for fish for tomorrow. He said, come on in here and see if you can get them. And he just, whoever you are out there, thank you. I do not know who it was, but I'm assuming.
What kind of boat was it?
How do you know he watched the show? Well, he recognized you.
He said, hey, Rick, come in. I mean, I don't, what
kind of boat?
It was a white boat. I don't know. I didn't even pay attention. I know.
Rick,
Big
you didn't get his address. You didn't get his
it was
phone
a
number?
white boat without power poles. How's that?
Yeah.
So anyway, so we went in and we ended up hooking one. It was about 32, 33 inches, and got him to the boat. And the fish scrammed. And then I got probably a little more aggressive with them, trying to find them again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was enough wind that I was having trouble with hull slap and all that. But anyway, whoever you are out there, thank you, because you you definitely made that a worthwhile fish for that one guy on the boat.
Kathy and Travis, and Jason. Who's the new guy in the center? And look at Kathy, what she said.
What? Yeah, scroll back down.
So, let me use the mouse instead.
What did it say?
Tegan seriously just said, "Where's Daddy?"
I know, man. That's the worst of it all. Is she's not gonna know what's going on.
Next seminar should be on why you shouldn't burn. We never condone that.
Never condone that. But we're tarpon fishing. So
yeah.
And group
we don't.
fishing.
Yeah, we don't burn shorelines in tarpon.
Well, to conclude what Rick was saying, there's partnerships out there. There's friends out there. We all appreciate everybody that helps us out.
Yeah.
We enjoy helping, or hopefully helping other people out. And honestly, man, that's
it was
what
nice
it's all
to get
about.
it to come back.
That's what I mean. That's what it's all about.
It was just a couple weeks before that. I was on some snook, and man, we just had them just blasting. And this guy was really nice. He come out from around the corner. He saw me fishing. He went way out around me on trolling motor, and he was leaving, and I just kind of yelled to him. I said, "Do you got white bait?" And he yelled back, "Yes." I said, "Well, come here. There's plenty of fish here." So he come in and he started throwing. He didn't have enough to chum with, I don't think, because I was kind of actually trying to chum back his way a little bit. But they caught 6 or 8 snook, and I told my guys, I said, let's go to another spot, and we left. But those guys were like, "Dude, thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you."
Right.
So it goes both ways. I know both you guys are pretty generous on the water. When people behave the right way and do the right thing, you're willing to help out. And it was nice, though, getting that return favor for once, because normally when they see a guide, they're like, blah, blah, blah.
we're going to get in this grouper conversation, but when my experience has been when you operate with another boat, if you communicate with each other, like, you know, because in some of the areas I fish, I mean, there's some of the areas everyone fishes. There's some tight areas, and if it's worked properly, there's enough room for 2 or 3 boats to everyone do what they want to do. Well, especially this redfish season, that's held true for me in the areas I've been fishing, and I've had several different boats that have bumped into the same areas and located the same fish or the same pods, and fortunately, everyone's kind of had a very courteous mentality. And every single time we go there, no matter which combination of boats it is, everybody works together. Everybody's communicating with one another. Everybody's working slowly, saying, you come from this angle, I'll come from this angle. And it's not a race. Instead, it's a, let's figure this out so everybody gets it.
A collaboration.
It's not being said.
And I actually wish the guy that called me in on the redfish, I wish he would have stayed.
Yeah.
Because I felt like 2 or maybe having a third boat there.
Especially those fish.
You know which fish I'm talking about. Yes, because they were definitely willing to eat.
Yeah,
they were just nervous, and they were. But I mean, every time he would throw chum out there, the water would just boil. And then, soon as he started to move, they wanted to move, and me moving in. You know, I kind of did a big U-ey to come in to where he was to get the wind at my back, and had he stayed, but he was doing what he felt like was really, and it was. I mean, he was being nicer than I could never expect anybody to do that.
There.
And but if he'd have stayed, we might have,
really.
I guarantee you, those guys, because when he was chumming them, I mean, he was actually not even using a bat or nothing. He was just grabbing a handful and tossing them like 15 foot behind the boat, and they were just.
Gotta love that.
Yeah, I never could get that close to him, but it was pretty cool.
Ty, what's up, buddy? That's a good buddy of mine. I'm actually taking. I don't know if you talked to Jamie, but I got Jamie. He's going with me tomorrow. We're gonna mix tarpon and grouper, kind of like what we did last year. So I don't know if you're in on that trip. I don't think your name got called out, Ty, but I'm pretty sure Jamie's got another one in the books for you, brother. But so Ty says he was down in Sarasota chasing them. Were you on the beach? Yeah. I'm assuming, Ty.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables there.
Yeah, that is the beach fishing. We kind of alluded to that in the tarpon seminar. Is that there's different tactics that you're going to look for and use on the beach, in the pass, at the bridge, in the bay, on the there's different things you're going to look for, and there's different things you're going to do. So sometimes, and I know you're probably not using that term directly, but chasing them down the beach or down down the way or whatever. You never really want to chase tarpon. You always want to find tarpon and put yourself in their projected, path, right? It's just like a school of redfish. You never really want to chase a school of redfish. You may follow them, but there's a fine line between that of chasing them and following them. And real quick, Ty, and then we're going to talk grouper here, but one thing that I mentioned in my seminar is, this holds true with any kind of sketchy schooling fish, and we talked about it on tarpon, on the beach especially, is that if you find a school of tarpon, even if you're on idle, and they're still moving, right? And I talked about, somebody asked me, what'd you do if you see a school of tarpon? Do you put your trolling motor down? Do you ease up to them? Do you speed up and get in front of them? And I always said the first thing I do is I turn my motor off and I float. And the reason for that is do they keep moving or do they start slowing down? And that tells me whether I'm pushing them or they're wanting to move down that beach naturally, right? And if they stop, then odds are I'm probably going to put my trolling motor down and try to get up in front of them or get as close as I can to them. If they kind of keep moving, I'm probably going to get on plane and run down the beach, way past them, and set up and just hope that they come in that path.
It's about predicting. You got to make the best prediction you can, and that was just held true this last week. But you don't want to be parallel. You don't want to be like right on those fish. I'm looking at they're right there, and you're in a trolling motor race. If your trolling motor's up on 10.
They can feel
or you're trying to idle. Even when you get there ahead of them, they're just going to do one of these, right around you,
right?
Or act like you're not even there. They're going to start swimming right under your boat and bumping into you, and it's going to frustrate you. So
you got to figure those fish are probably 30 years old. They've seen it. They've seen it before.
No, and you got to understand too is it's a school of fish, so. Whoever that lead guy is, whoever the group has labeled the lead guy, that's the guy's attitude. You want to know what he's because a lot of times if the lead guy ain't happy, the rest of the crew ain't happy, and that just comes with, not to say that I'm an expert, James expert or anything, but the more you fish tarpon, especially the same area, right? Because there's a way that the fish act in the pass and on the beach, and there's a way that the fish act inside the bay. You pick that up, when the fish get into smaller groups, they act different. When they're in bigger groups, they act different. You'll very rarely see a tarpon act the way they do in the pass at the bridge or even inside the bay. When they're coming up in 5 and 6 at a time, tail slapping, you'll see it, but it's not as common as what's going on in the pass. And to be honest with you, when you see a lot of that happen inside the bay, it's actually harder to hook fish. Yeah. When they're doing that on the beach and in the pass, they seem like you're hooking a lot of them. Now if they're rolling and gulping air, that's a different situation. And so, all that being said, it's time on the water, time on the fish, and putting the pieces of the pie together. What works, what doesn't work, and the one unwritten rule or the one written rule about tarpon is they're not the same every day. No. You got to have a plethora of options, techniques, baits, methods, areas. So just keep that in mind. Don't get frustrated like we talked about. If it's that tough to get your first tarpon or to get tarpon fishing figured out, it's that much more rewarding when you do. So that being said, let's talk some grouper, guys.
Grouper, yeah.
You want to throw trivia out there?
Yes.
Let's do trivia.
We got trivia. I got a spool of leader from Joy that we can give away to whoever wins. 50-yard spool.
Oh, that's a big spool.
So,
big spool.
Yeah.
We're doing what, like 20 pounds?
20, 30,
60?
or 40. Or there's 25. So she said anywhere up to 40 pounds.
All right. Cool.
All right.
Cool.
Well, the trivia question is, what's the world record gag grouper? How big was it and where was it caught?
That one should be a tough one.
No, it's easy if you go online, but
yeah, well, that's what we're going to do right now.
I know, but try to get it without going online.
All right. Well, I don't think anyone's going to do that.
They are online, Rick. They're actually all online right now.
So it's like they hit one more button.
It's kind of an online show.
Yeah, I don't know
to
find the answer.
A gag grouper?
Grouper.
I don't know the answer to you.
I don't know the answer, but
what would you think?
I would say 120 pounds.
What would you say?
Jason's boat. Manny Fuertes said 96.
I'm gonna probably push that bubble and just say like 103, 104. I don't think it's much over 100 pounds.
Did you just Prices Right me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you busted. You didn't get the showcase. At least I'm still good for
Liverpool's
the
showcase. Well, Eric's a smart fella too.
Shoot. I'm gonna say around the
Liverpool just got it.
Liverpool got it.
80 pounds, 6 ounces.
Okay.
Liverpool, I got you some leader, man.
And it was in the Panhandle, caught in Destin.
What pound test, Liverpool?
Yeah. What bait? What tide?
I don't know what it, I don't know what bait it was caught on.
121 out of Kissimmee. Yeah, that's what I was guessing.
We're not talking about gars.
I was talking about lake.
Talking about alligator gars.
Yeah.
So let's do some grouper stuff, right? So, Steven, you the man, brother. Come and get you some leader. I think I just saw you fishing with James the other day.
He did Wednesday. Yeah, I went out with him and Matt. Yeah.
Awesome. So why don't we do this? I'm going to talk about how I like to grouper fish.
Yeah.
Rick, you can throw yours out there. James, you throw yours out there.
Cool.
So for me, I'm gonna say 2. Right? There's 2 different ways I like to tarpon fish. Obviously, bottom fishing, right, and then trolling. So those are the 2 ways that I like to grouper fish. There's not many other ways, but the bottom fishing that I like to do for grouper, my favorite way to do it. It's not always the best way, not always the most productive, but my favorite way to do it is with live pinfish. Okay. I like fishing the edges of the channels. I like fishing rock piles. I'm not big on fishing wrecks and the reefs a bunch. Now, I will, but I'm just saying if I had to pick, I'd rather be on a channel or a rock pile, something without a lot of structure, something without a lot of stuff. There's certain areas in the bay, certain places that I like to fish that I know the area is small, but there's a lot of grouper. And so for me, especially with clients and maybe some people that aren't quite as skilled as getting those fish off the bottom, I choose to fish in a lot of those areas. But the pinfish, couple little tricks. You don't need a giant pinfish to fish for grouper.
No.
In fact, sometimes the bigger pinfish will actually swim up. I think it was Todd Fouché was on the show a while back, and he said something that I'd never really heard of, and it was an interesting trick, and I've used it. I think it might make a difference. I'm not 100% sure, but on some of those pinfish, some of the bigger ones or some of the ones that aren't acting right and are coming up, if you pop their eyes, like literally just take something and poke both of their eyeballs out, they can't see and they'll actually swim down to the bottom.
It's cruel.
As opposed for them coming back up. But what you want to do is you want to get on the channel side, on the deeper side of whatever the structure is, and get those baits down to the bottom and let them swim with the current up towards the ledge.
Yeah.
The groupers are going to be sitting there. On heavy current, you want to be on the ledge or on the deeper side of the ledge. One of my favorite times to do it is actually on the slacker tides. What happens is, just like with trolling, on the slacker tides, the grouper tend to come out of those holes. They come out, they sort of investigate a little bit.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more outside of the structure. You can get them in a wider area, and so I like to do that with the bottom fishing. But those are the two ways I'll do it. On a ripping tide, it's a real tight thing. We're in the deeper water, getting to the edges. In the slacker tides, I like to get on top of the ledge and fish more down under the boat.
Fishing kind of hardcore, get on there. Spot.
Throw some baits out. Mostly if it's ripping, it's two baits. It's two baits drifting back, and then touch real quick on the trolling. I'm sure you're going to talk some trolling too. But my favorite time to troll is 30 to 45 minutes before the slack tide and 30 to 45 minutes after the turn, right? So, and it falls in line with those groupers being out of those holes, out on those ledges, sitting out, looking out without those gushing tides that are pushing them down in the holes. You'll find that on your troll, your plugs will run better. You'll tend to catch more fish.
Yep.
And just to throw it out there, one more, the Fire Tiger is probably my favorite trolling plug.
Fire Tiger, huh? All right.
Yep.
I got my own favorite.
And minimum gag grouper is 24 inches.
Yes.
So
which just started Saturday.
Yep.
Season open.
Angelo must be talking about a different kind of grouper.
Yeah. If not, we're gonna have to investigate. We're gonna have to throw the challenge flag on Liverpool. But in the meantime, Liverpool has it for the gag grouper.
I went online and found it.
So when you Rick, do gag grouper, we're really talking about the bay.
It's a knocker rig, Steve.
Yeah.
In the bay, normally nothing over an ounce. I'm a half to a 1 ounce. If I've got to go higher than an ounce, normally I will try something else because the current's just ripping too hard.
Much, yeah.
If I can't hold with an ounce, maybe an ounce and a half.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's just a lot of times for me, the grouper fish is not that good.
Yeah.
So if I can't hold
because it's ripping where you have to use more than that.
Those fish,
that's what I mean. It's just
those fish are just sitting in such tight structure that the odds of your bait locating, there's just a lot of extra.
And you
things
figure
in
anything over an ounce, you're down on the bottom. I mean, you're dropping it on the bottom, and especially in some of these areas,
you're not getting
you've
it
got
back.
debris, you've got small outcroppings around some of these areas, and you're just going to spend a lot of time rigging rods because with an ounce, you can normally pop that up, or you're going to get a lot more back. When you start getting up to that ounce and a half, 2 ounce, 3 ounce type stuff, you're going to lose a lot of rigs inside Tampa Bay, especially if you're fishing where the gag groupers are.
Right.
So,
Rick, it's teed up, man.
My personal, I don't do a lot of grouper fishing anymore, but I use a knocker rig with the 1 ounce weights, or I don't really go if I need to use more than that. I usually just don't go because the current's ripping. Pretty much just the way Travis said, set up on the if the current's at my back going, I set up on the other side of the channel, and I always fish. I don't fish the channels very much that run with the current. I'll fish the channels that are perpendicular to the current and drop them and let them go to the opposite side of the channel.
Either let them sweep under or fall over, right?
Right.
And then there's some places out by the Skyway that are just big holes that I just straight drop down.
Yeah.
You may be fishing a hole that's literally the size of this table, and you're just trying to get that bait down in that hole.
Yeah.
Wedges and some holes out there.
So, it's a grouper fishing is really not now trolling is different. I don't troll. But if you're dropping, and I like pinfish best, if you're just dropping baits with weights, it's really not a high IQ kind of thing.
It's an area thing.
It's an area
more
thing.
so than
much more. The
skill thing.
technique is very limited, but yeah, the neighborhood you're in is important.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's a big neighborhood, and sometimes it's a
small one.
private gated community.
Yeah. Grouper fishing. So like I separate grouper fishing. There's there's hot weather grouper fishing, and then there's the cool weather grouper fishing. What I'm doing in November and December at the end of the season is a lot different than what I'm doing now. In fact, I run most of my grouper targeted trips in that colder season because I feel like it's something you can really make a 4 or 6 hour trip out of right now.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I don't. Right now, it's like a portion of a trip or something we could do while we're doing something else. You mentioned you're doing tarpon and grouper.
You keep fishing around. You keep fishing around town here. You're gonna be catching a lot more grouper.
So, the thing with that is that's not uncommon at the bridge. There's a lot of places you go and do that's a bycatch, and a lot of times for me, growing up fishing around the bridge is the slack tide is when tarpon get a little tougher. Well, we go grouper fishing. In general.
In the bay.
In general. So I'm always trying to burn as little fuel as I can in doing so.
Well, and it's a time thing, too. Yeah. We don't run an hour over here to go grouper fish for an hour and come back and tarpon fish. So
one bait that I think's underrated, and I heard somebody say knocker rig or free line, and with a pinfish you almost have to do a knocker rig because the pinfish will go down, and this is my opinion, they go down, they get a little spooked by what they see if you're in a good spot, and once that pinfish comes back up, he's never going back down. Or if a grouper tries to make a swipe at him, he's never going back down. Like I've seen it happen with snook. Pinfish just won't go back down. What I like to do, if you get around the structure around the skyway, is I like to use the biggest threadies that I'm taking for tarpon, and I like them live. And I do like them free-lined on a slack tide. I feel like those baits try to get down on the slack. They go deeper. The grouper are out exploring. That's absolutely true.
100%.
When it comes to slack tide or slow tide, those bottom dwellers are without a doubt out and about. They're moving from one piling to the next, one pile to the next, getting out away from the structure on the reef, and they're a lot easier to target, and they're a lot easier to get in your boat.
They're eating too.
Yeah.
They're out foraging during an opportunistic time.
Yeah.
I always tell people when we talk about in seminars, fish are opportunistic creatures.
Yep.
They're not. They want to get the most out of exerting the least amount of energy, the least amount of effort to eat as much fish or do whatever they need to do on a daily basis. They want to do it. That's why Goliaths sit under pilings all day long because they don't have to move. The bait.
They don't really have nothing else to do.
But
they
you're
got
right.
one purpose, and that's it.
Survive, eat and survive.
One of the things that I did a grouper seminar. I don't know. It's probably 2 years ago or so, and the guy was kind of asking me some questions after the seminar, and he was asking me some questions about the behavior of groupers, right, and bottom, like snappers and just bottom fishing. And we got to talking, and I was telling him, the slack tides, and and it's all really kind of a guessing game, right, or like what I think from the top looking down. But I told him, I says, are any of your buddies divers? Are any of your buddies spear fishermen?
Oh,
Do you know anybody that goes to buy? Have you ever dove? Find a good, if you really want to be a good bottom fisherman, go be friends with a diver or a spear fisherman, because they're the ones that a good spear fisherman or a good diver in general can tell you exactly and really enlighten you on what fish do, the different species. Like, for instance, and we're going to go off the kilter here but a little bit, but as an example, a hogfish, right? Most people, want to go target hogfish on rod and reel and this, that, and the other, and it's kind of a newer phenomenon or a newer, technique to go catch, hogfish on rod and reel. And in my opinion, all that came to light when spear fishermen started rod and reel and hogfish, because they knew that okay, we're catching 40 lane snappers and grunts, but I've dove this spot and I've seen the hogfish in with them, or around the sea fans, or these different little things. And by getting the knowledge from what the bottom looks like and what the fish do on a strong tide, a slack tide, dirty water, clean water, bait, not bait, all those different situations, times of the year, that will help you be a better fisherman from the top. So I always throw that out there, is that if you want to be a really good bottom fisherman, make friends with a diver.
So jump in.
Or jump in, or go down. The bay is not the best place to do that. Although there's a certain
it's
area.
Scary for me.
There's a certain area that I fish, and it's been dove by several people that I know, and I've never been down there because I can tell you I'm a fisherman and I've yanked up what's down there or what patrols that area.
Yeah, I don't.
And
want
I ain't getting in the water down there. Yeah. But it's a ledge, and you'll never see it on a machine.
Yeah.
You'll never see the ledge and in my mind they've told me about what it looks like and everything, and I know where it's at. I fish it a lot, and I can't tell what they're seeing, but I catch the fish they told me are there, and the areas and the way that they sit and all the stuff because they've been down there diving it. And so just another tool to that tool bag to where thinking outside the box and using the resources at your fingertips will help you be a better fisherman.
When we're talking about this, like we talk about this side grouper thing, so like I usually find my best grouper catches to be mixed in like when I'm snapper fishing this time of year. So when I talk about early summer or middle of summer, like dog days of summer when it's really warm, the snapper bites on fire, what I like to do is, what I found as a guide is you generally have 3 or 4 people on the boat. Sometimes fishing 4 snapper rods at the same time can get a little tricky, right?
Depending on current.
Depending on current especially. Because generally your boat's going to be set up one way and 2 baits are ideal. You really try to mix a third in there when you can, but 4 starts to get a little bit hairy. So what I'll usually do is the way I'll set up is drop the bigger bait and the bigger rod out in front of all that, maybe where some of the heavier chum is making its way down a little faster, and try to get my snapper lines, if I've got current, are going to be coming, like that in relation to the boat. They're going to be drifting a little bit further back, and I want to slide that grouper bait down in there. Now, when I'm doing this snapper fishing, I'm using dead bait. So I'm just finding the biggest pieces of dead bait I can on, and I'm not really 1 ounce in it or anything. I'm usually just putting like a size 1 split shot, just making sure it's drifting down there lower, because I think those grouper get curious. They see all this smorgasbord of these guys are getting fed, man, and all this cool stuff is happening up there, and they don't want to go up there. Like I've never caught grouper in the middle of the water column, but I know I've caught grouper underneath the snapper by sliding some bigger dead baits under them. So that's one thing you can go and do. If you have productive snapper grounds, which I've seen people asking, where's the spot? Well, if you can find snapper, the odds are you're going to have grouper around, but you're going to need, some bigger tackle when it comes to rod and reel, line, leader, hook, bait, all of that. Maybe just mix that into some of the snapper spots you're already fishing with a little more weight and try to get that bait underneath everything and see what you pull up.
Called keeper grouper on the surface in 15 foot of water.
I was just getting ready to say, and
dang.
You and I were talking
too
yesterday with everyone. We were talking about snapper. Was talking about some of the snapper that we've been able to do the last few years.
That's a great question from Eric.
And like Rick said, I've literally had groupers that put the snappers back to the bottom.
Yeah.
I've got a ball of snappers up, and all of a sudden I'm seeing these big white flashes up under the ball of snappers, and then all of a sudden, if you fished a school of mangrove snappers, especially in shallow water, they'll go down, they'll come up, they'll go down, they'll come up, they'll go down, they'll come up. They're always there, but they'll kind of float up and down. And I've had it happen to me quite a few times where they disappear, and then all of a sudden I got groupers on the surface, gag groupers. I'm talking like not nowhere near the number of the snappers, but I mean they're picking off chum. You can watch them, And so I made a comment last year. As of last year, all my snapper rods, when I hand a client a snapper rod,
are capable of catching.
They're 7-foot medium rods with 20-pound
tests.
tests.
About that.
Because we just started losing so many grouper snapper fishing, and I didn't see. Of course, you catch a smaller snapper. I mean, it's kind of pathetic, right? I mean, you just yank him in. But hey, we're meat hunting at that point, right? I mean, we're trying to put fish in the cooler for the most part. And yeah, it may take some of the game out of it, but let me tell you what: when that 5-6 pound mangrove hits, you're going to want that piece of tackle to get that big dog in the boat. So whether it's the grouper or the big snappers down there, that's what we've sort of migrated to for our standard snapper rig. I know we had a couple questions.
So one of the questions from Eric was, what are we using to create that chum slick? And he's like, like a lot of people probably think it's a commercial chum bag type product.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's not. I mean, not inside the bay, at least. The only time I grab one of those is if I'm heading offshore. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's generally dead bait. Preferably when I'm, kind of targeting snapper, it's small white bait, small threadies, or sardines, whatever, Spanish sardines. And if I can't get that and it's getting bigger bait, well, then it's bait that I cut up into the right size, and a lot of it.
The greatest thing to cut those with is those surgical scissors.
That's the second greatest thing.
Okay, well,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to just step in on that one.
You got the. I don't have the Travis.
I got one.
I tried to give you one.
I got one.
I don't think
it's a game changer. I blew some minds.
I have one for you. I have one for you, Rick. But you don't ever use it.
I would if I had it, but I just use my scissors and just I can take a bait and cut him.
It's a good alternative,
But if you want to mass produce chum, if you want to go out to fishing and be able to dump a 5-gallon bucket without without worry about I'm going to run out of pre-cut. That box, man, dude, Steven was out with me Wednesday. Dude, he was like, oh, my God. The other guy that was with us, I was like, hey, I don't think Travis can get you one right now. He's like, tell me where I can get one. I told him where he could get one. It's on the way.
Yeah,
he
went
on
online
that day and got one.
It's a game changer, man.
I wouldn't know.
It's a game changer. What I like about that one is it fits in a hatch.
Yeah.
See, what he doesn't know he's got coming is a big
I got a hatch
box.
that don't have one in it.
It's the greatest gift I've gotten from Travis.
We can fix that. We can fix it. But, no, you're right. The only time I would say that a chum bag is useful is there are certain times of the year where I just don't have enough time to go get a cooler full of bait and do that, or maybe it's just a quick trip, a 4-hour trip, and we're just going to go mackerel fishing and maybe slide some snapper in there. A couple pre-made chum bags are going to do just fine, and then mix it in with some live white bait, chumming with that. What the chum bag is going to do is keep the fish around.
You need to bring a box next week and show it.
What's that?
The box.
Oh, the cut box?
Maybe,
we can do that.
Maybe.
We can potentially do that.
I don't know. I can tell you I was out there this week, and I got some phone calls from people, and they're like, how are you putting out that much chum? Like, there was times when the bite was on, and I'm like, man, I'm going to do everything I can to keep it right here, and we're scooping it, like throwing it out the boat like this, and I think everybody's eyes are on me like, what is he? And I'm like, dude, that's just one bucket.
There was a couple times.
Hey, grab bucket 2, grab bucket 3.
That's what I'm saying. There was a couple times, and I think I told you this. There was a couple times I was out on the beach, and I had like 4 buckets with me, pre-cut.
Yeah.
And I'm just opening up buckets, like you said, and people were like, I never even saw him cut a piece of bait, man.
Yeah.
What is he doing over there?
Oh, man. Cheaters. You're cheaters.
But
and it only
work
takes a minute.
Smarter.
Work smarter, not harder. But, yeah, no. Oh, Liverpool, you done did it.
That's all right.
That's all right.
Go for it. But, yeah, guys, so.
Oh, look at the link. Is like they both put it at the same time.
Boom.
But that's the northeast version. You're gonna have some You're gonna have some northeast juju on that.
You're gonna have
Tampa.
It is.
You're gonna have that west central Florida juju.
That's a bluefin box.
Yeah, that's like a bluefin box, man.
That's
for catching like stripers and whatever else, haddock, and cods or whatever's up there.
Cods.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll work. I mean, that's just it's nice to be able to have that. So that is actually gets more. It's useful snapper. It's useful mackerel. The chum I make for like bay fishing, I guess you'd say, is the same every day.
Oh yeah.
It's just cut up bait.
It's just a bunch of junk. They're trash cans, folks.
Yep.
That's all it is.
So that would be the one thing I would say we don't target. And then talking about trolling, we talked a lot about this in the winter, and there's an episode where we really talk trolling, and we'll probably have a grouper seminar that we're going to do closer to the winter when I feel like it's something more I want to do. But it's trolling. I just, like you said, I really feel like its productive value is way up around slack tide. Like, actually, the common theme here seems to be we all think the success rate of grouper fishing in general is best during and around a slack tide. So I would take that to heart. I don't have the patience, the checkbook for the tackle I go through, or the fish that, it's a frustrating experience to do it in our fishery in the bay on a rolling tide. I mean, these channels are moving, man.
Right.
And even if your bait gets down to the bottom in the right spot, you can't feel much anyways. And keep in mind, your bait is here, your boat is here, your bait is here. Well, guess what your line is looking like? It's looking like that. So by the time you get and eat in a rip current or in a ripping tide and feel it and react to it and make your move and get the slack out of the line, fish is back in his hole, man. So I just don't do it. I mean, that's my big thing. But I
want to kind of add just a little bit of information to that, because we kind of alluded to that in the beginning of the show about ethics and sort of knowing what's going on and kind of the rules of the road. This weekend there was a lot of people out trolling for grouper, while other people were set up still fishing. And so, there's a fine line there, right? If you're gonna troll, and you're gonna troll in a shipping channel, or
we almost slapped high fives with a couple of them.
It was there was portions of the day where you just kind of hold your breath, and you go, really, man? So if you're gonna troll, do it wisely. I mean, think about the one common thing that most people don't ever think about. If I was sitting on that boat and I was over there still fishing with my anchor out or sitting on trolling motor with lines out, would I be mad if this guy come trolling a plug 10 feet off the side of my boat? You probably would. Any normal person would probably be a little bit irritated when you're out in the middle of the bay and you're fishing in an area and some guy is doing something totally different and wants to drive right by the side of your boat, right? So if you're going to troll, pick the areas that you troll. You may not be able to troll a portion of the channel that you like. You may have to troll in the empty space, go out wide around, or go into the channel a little bit deeper and come back around and go around the folks that are fishing on the edges of the channel or, wherever they're at. Be a little bit respectful because it causes issues. I like to troll. Trust me, I like to troll. But I can tell you one thing. I very rarely troll on the weekends. Even when I'm trolling for grouper, it's just so hard to do it because a lot of those areas, there's people either, if the grouper is hot there,
they're set up.
There's probably some people there bottom fishing or snapper fishing or tarpon fishing or something.
Well, you can fix the trollers pretty easy though.
What's that?
Okay.
I mean, you start cutting off $10, $15.
No, they're like $30.
$30.
Now, right?
I mean, you start cutting them off. It'd be nothing to catch one.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you can. If somebody gets 10 foot from the boat, I mean, just go ahead and make an example out of that one, and he'll learn.
He'll learn.
I mean, that's 10 foot.
He'll learn eventually.
I'm
it just might be
pretty patient with people, and that would. I mean, 10 foot's here to the wall. I mean, that would.
I remember a story. I've never personally.
Somebody just lost some tackle.
I've never personally had it happen like this bad to me, but there's a story that sticks out in my head, and I know it's true because 2 separate people have told me about it, and it was on Jason's boat with a buddy of ours named Ernie. They were sitting there fishing in a snapper hole, and like the dude's plug like hit the side of the boat, or like they got caught in the line like at the boat, like not even lines out or something. So just beware, the guy that's in the 40-foot friggin' triple outboard offshore boat that's trolling in the shipping channel, go where your boat can take you.
Yeah.
Speaking
of Ernie, I think Ernie stepped off on the balcony of his condo the other day and was trying to say hi, and he come out and he yelled and he did like this, and I didn't recognize who it was, and I thought he was getting after me for. I mean, it was in a no wake zone.
Yeah.
But I was going pretty slow, but I was pushing a little wake, And I just kind of turned around, didn't pay no attention to him. And then once I powered up and left, I thought, I think that was maybe Ernie. I think he was actually trying.
Watching.
If he's watching, Ernie, I wasn't trying to be rude. I thought he was fixing to yell at me, so I just I ain't going to listen.
Well,
he normally moons people. So
normally.
I was in a hurry. You didn't get the moon.
Yeah, I was in a hurry that day. I didn't have time.
Well, before we take off, guys, we definitely want to give a congratulations to Jeremy Himes.
Yeah.
Ribs, man. Big showing up there. Actually, that was just a great job from a lot of Tampa anglers. I saw Ownby was up there pretty good with Pat Marcinick and who was it? Mike Rogal, I think, was 4th with Cope and Moore. So, a lot of guys I see coming in on the shop and talking to a lot.
Big check.
Yeah,
no,
but Jeremy and
Mickey,
big ups to you guys.
Man. Got it done.
And then on a little more serious note, we just found out earlier this evening that Pat Kelly had passed, and we definitely want to,
Captain Pat Kelly with the Florida Guides Association was, I don't know how many years he was the active president, but he's been involved with the Florida Guides Association for a very long time and done some incredible things and led the organization in different paths that have been successful. And so, if you think about it this evening, say a prayer for him and his family, and he rest in peace. We're certainly going to miss him and appreciate all that he's done for fishing, and especially fishing in Florida and the Florida Guides Association. So heavy hearts out for the Kelly family, and we hope that everything goes for the best for those folks.
Yep.
So
absolutely. Cool.
Other than that, guys, I think it's time for some wings.
Let's go get some wings.
What do you think?
All right, cool.
Wing it.
Guys, we appreciate it. It's been another week of good fishing in Tampa Bay, tarpon, groupers. Got some Spanish mackerel, snapper coming up maybe next week. So everything's rolling on the right direction. Guys, if you want to get out and do a charter with us, you can give us a call. My cell phone number is 813-830-3474. Captain James.
They never call me. 813-625-2067.
Yeah, I lost my phone.
Rick doesn't have a phone.
We'll see you guys. It's been fun.
813-601-2900.